Mr. President, yesterday afternoon, the Senate voted on the Green New Deal, Democrats' $93 trillion socialist fantasy. And how did Democrats vote on this deal? They voted present. That's right. 43 out of 47 members of the Democrat caucus voted present. Mr. President, this may be the first time in my experience here that I've ever seen a piece of legislation and people who authored that legislation, in this case 13 Democrats, who authored the bill, co-sponsored the bill, introduced the bill, indicated that action on the issue needed to be taken now, proceed to vote present. I've never seen that in my time, either in the House and the Senate. There was always an opportunity, as the chair knows, in the House of Representatives, when you vote by electronic machine, to punch the yellow present option. You had red or green or present, but very rarely was that used. But I don't think I've ever seen in the United States Senate 13 United States senators file a bill, introduce a bill, co-sponsor a bill, talk about how important it is that we deal with it and deal with it immediately, and then proceed to vote present. Well, that is what happened yesterday. And Mr. President, I just want to step back for a minute and talk about the Green New Deal, Democrats' plan to put government in charge of everything from your energy to your health care. The cost of this plan would be staggeringly high. One think tank released a first estimate that found that the Green New Deal would cost somewhere between $51 trillion and $93 trillion over a 10-year period. Between $51 trillion and $93 trillion. The 2017 gross domestic product for the entire world, the whole planet, only came to $80.7 trillion, more than $10 trillion less than Democrats are proposing to spend on the Green New Deal. $93 trillion is more than the amount of money the United States government has spent in its entire history. So how do the Democrats plan to cover that $93 trillion? Well, they don't actually have a plan. The Green New Deal resolution itself makes a vague reference to, and I quote, community grants, public banks, and other public financing, end quote. Well, then, of course, Democrats have their favorite funding source, which is taxing the rich. The problem is there's no way that taxing the rich would even come close to paying for the Green New Deal. One analyst found that 3 Democrat proposals, the representative from New York's proposed 70% top tax rate, the senator from Massachusetts' wealth tax, and the senator from Hawaii's financial transactions tax, would together pay for approximately 4% of the Green New Deal. Taxing every millionaire in the United States at a 100% rate for 10 years would bring in only a tiny fraction of $93 trillion. Taxing every household making more than $200,000 a year at a 100% rate for 10 years wouldn't get Democrats anywhere close to $93 trillion. Taxing every family making more than $100,000 a year at a 100% rate for 10 years would still leave Democrats far short of $93 trillion. Mr. President, the Green New Deal is not a plan that can be paid for by taxing the rich. This plan would be paid for on the backs of working families. The size of the tax hikes that would be required to even begin to finance this massive government expansion would sharply diminish American standard of living and usher in a new era of diminished prosperity. And I haven't even mentioned the freedom of choice that Americans would lose and give up under the Green New Deal. Your car's engine would likely soon become illegal. Washington planners could force you to rebuild your house to meet strict new energy efficiency guidelines. Your ability to travel by air might be restricted or entirely eliminated. And the Green New Deal doesn't limit itself to massive government expansion in the area of energy. Among other things, it would also put the government in charge of your health care. So if you like your health plan, get ready to give it up. than there are the millions of current energy jobs that would be lost under this plan. Plus, there would likely be significant job losses in other industries as well, as small businesses and larger companies found themselves unable to cope with the Green New Deal's mandates and taxes. For American families, the Green New Deal would mean smaller paychecks, fewer jobs, fewer choices, and a permanently reduced standard of living. And you don't even have to take my word for it. Here's what the AFL-CIO, which represents 12.5 million workers and a number of unions, had to say about the Green New Deal. And I quote, "The Green New Deal resolution is far too short on specific solutions that speak to the jobs of our members and the critical sectors of our economy. It is not rooted in an engineering-based approach and makes promises that are not achievable or realistic. We will not accept proposals that could cause immediate harm to millions of our members and their families. We will not stand by and allow threats to our members' jobs and their family standard of living go unanswered," end quote. That from the AFL-CIO. Let me repeat that, Mr. President. We will not accept proposals that could cause immediate harm to millions of our members and their families. We will not stand by and allow threats to our members' jobs and their family standard of living go unanswered. Again, a quote from the AFL-CIO. That's what they're saying about the Democrats' Green New Deal. Mr. President, the American people have a right to know where Democrats stand on this massive government expansion. Are they for it or are they against it? Their presidential candidates have embraced this plan. 13 Senate Democrats, as I mentioned, sponsored the original Green New Deal resolution here in the Senate. 92 Democrats sponsored the original Green New Deal resolution in the House. And yet yesterday, just 4 members of the Democrat caucus had the courage to make their position clear. As for the rest, well, it's actually understandable that most Democrats didn't want to go on the record as supporting perhaps the most irresponsible and costly resolution ever to come before the United States Senate. It's pretty difficult to tell your constituents that you support cutting their paychecks, eliminating millions of their jobs, and drastically reducing their choices. And I'm sure there are more than 4 members of the Democrat caucus who don't support this plan. But Democrats are more and more enthralled to the left wing with their party. And clearly some Democrats were afraid to actually reject this plan with their vote. So what happened? 43 out of 47 members of the Democrat caucus here in the United States Senate left the American people in limbo as to their view, and they ended up voting present. Mr. President, I would love to think that every Democrat who voted president yesterday has realized how damaging the Green New Deal would be to working families. But the scary truth is that while some Democrats may have voted president simply because they wanted to avoid angering the far left wing of their party, other Democrats really believe. They really believe in the Green New Deal. The junior senator from Vermont was asked if the Green New Deal goes too far. His answer? No. You cannot go too far on the issue of climate change, end quote. Really? You can't go too far? Not even if you saddle millions of families with exorbitant taxes and other costs just for minuscule gains? Not even if you permanently damage the American economy? One of the Green New Deal's authors has actually stated that it's a legitimate question whether or not people should have children because of climate change. Is that something that the Green New Deal supporters want to legislate too? Really? Mr. President, Democrats' Green New Deal extremism is disturbing. And I'm deeply disappointed in yesterday's vote because the American people deserve to hear how every Democrat stands on this dangerous plan. Americans deserve to know whether Democrats are willing to hike their taxes, eliminate their jobs, and diminish drastically their freedoms. I hope that more Democrats will join the 4 who rejected this massive government overreach and will work with Republicans to develop responsible solutions to protect our environment, solutions that don't hurt American families.